All right, good afternoon. Let's go ahead and get started. So we have Senator Patty Sink up in the virtual hemisphere. Hey, Patty, can you hear us? All right, excellent. All right, welcome. So a couple of things first. I had the privilege of going to the Board of Governors meeting last week and met a number of wonderful people. So the new chancellor at Elizabeth State, Dr. Dixon, I believe. She is a graduate of our program, class of 2004. So very energetic and doing a lot of great things there. And then on the right side, we've got some of the executive committee members. So part of our goal is to put faces and names with the Board of Governors. And so you'll see Cheryl Gann there, the Senate Chair for the School of Science and Math. And then to my right on the photo is Tim Ives. He is the Faculty Assembly Chair-elect, so he'll be Chair-elect next year. The new Chair of the Board of Governors is Randy Ramsey. And then you see David Green, who's the current Faculty Assembly Chair. So anyway, just wanted you guys to know that we are working at the system level. And again, just meeting people. The Board of Governors were very happy that we were there. We're starting to attend their committee meetings and just providing a faculty voice. And ironically, outside of our chancellors and provosts, they tell us that they don't frequently hear from us. So this is quite a nice development. All right, a couple of quick reminders. So please sign in at go.uncg.edu/Senate meeting. If you want to view the slides on your device, just go to same address /FS handouts. And then if you want to join us via web conferencing, just go to that address there. You can do instant messaging real time while we are presenting. So a couple of quick announcements, I guess fun things. So first of all, one of our team members has recently gotten engaged. So Cam Roberts here, our graduate assistant, he had the audacity to ask for time off at our last meeting because he was asking his girlfriend to become his fiance. And he asked me, I didn't announce it last time. I said I didn't want to jinx it. But she said yes. So join me in congratulating Cam Roberts, who now, and I think with his permission, he took a nice picture with his new fiance with The Rock. So he did it right. So nice job. Yeah. The other, we have a special guest. I wanted to introduce the Senate Chair for NCA&T, Julius Harp. Julius, welcome. Do you want to say anything? Yes, to say hello.
I'm not going to say too much, but it's just good to get out of that cage of A&T and mingle and come back to UNCG. I have had some collaborative interaction with people in the chemistry department here. So thanks for having me, and I look forward to working with Dr. Anthony Chow in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Very nice. So one of the things that's been great, and it's happening again Thursday and Friday, is the faculty Senate chairs get to meet in Chapel Hill, and so I've been delighted working with Julius. And one of the things we're taking a close look at is the Obbuns position. So that's a position that both of our universities feel very strongly in. I know there's financial constraints, but one of the things that we're talking about is really kind of having a united front as far as faculty and staff in both campuses, and then working together to try to make sure we make it as cost effective if we can find the funding. So, all right, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to, so we said both congratulations and condolences again to Dr. Hunter, who went from one fire to a bigger fire. Let me pull up her slides here. Okay, so Andrea Hunter.
Just poke anywhere?
Yeah, anywhere.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. As Anthony said, I'm Andrea Hunter, the Associate Chair of the Faculty Senate, the immediate past chair, and now the Chair of the Provost Executive Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs Search. So it's good to see you here today, and this is what will be first of an informal and open discussion about the Provost Search. And I think this is really a conversation about our aspirations as we move forward as a university. Provost Dunn has certainly left us with a very strong institutional legacy, so I hope we all share an optimism and excitement as we seek a new leader in academic affairs. As many of you know, the search committee has convened for the first time last week with our partners from Isaacson Miller. And as chair, I thought it was important that we as a faculty and as a faculty community also talk with each other at this early stage. And this is yet another medium to inform the efforts of the search committee as well as those of our partners from Isaacson Miller. And so one of the things that we will be doing, I keep hearing a reverb here. Does it sound okay? One of the things that we'll also be doing is taking minutes, and that will be shared with the search committee as well as our partners from IM. So before we start and get into the discussion, I'm going to give you a broad outline of the search process and timeline. And then we'll go on to some questions that have been a part of the scoping sessions that Isaacson Miller has developed on our behalf. So first, we're at the beginning in terms of understanding the challenges. And so there have been scoping sessions that have been done formally and facilitated by Isaacson and Miller. There's also the scoping survey that all of the general faculty have received via email in a direct email. The link is also available in the Campus Weekly, and the staff senators have also received a direct survey. And also there's our faculty forum, as I said, part of our beginning informal discussion. So all of this will inform the position profile and the next stage of the work that will begin roughly between January and March, which is around narrowing the field. So that's the network, search, and recruitment. Of course, a lot of this is done by our partners at IM, but there's also, we have an opportunity to also contribute to that. You'll see that in the scoping surveys. They're also encouraging the committee as well as the larger campus if there are candidates that you want to put forward to do so. And so it's during that period where we'll begin the candidate review. And then there's the selection of the finalists. So there will be shortlisted candidates and then off-site interviews. Okay, so this process will occur within the context of the Senate search, the search committee. And then that will lead us to the finalist recommendation. And there will be on-site interviews, which will include some public format, but that's still in development. And then finally, by late April, we will have a final selection and have someone in place at the end of the provost's term. Do you have any questions, any general questions about this process before we move on to the discussion? Yes. If there are other members? Yes. And let me see if I can move forward. Other committee members? Can you stand and introduce yourself? Julia? And of course, Anthony. One other member just walked in. Andrew. Hi, Andrew Hamilton. So, any other questions? Now, how do I move backwards? Yeah. As I mentioned, this is still early days, and as I said, I thought it was really important for us to begin having that conversation with each other, and also to just begin surface how we're thinking about this position, what we would like to see going forward. And I'm just going to open it up and understand that we can start with the scoping questions, but certainly expect that the conversation may go in different directions as well. So one of the core questions are, what do you see as the challenges, opportunities, and strengths at UNCG that this person should be prepared to address or leverage? What skills, expertise, or qualities will be needed by this person to be successful in this organizational context? And going forward, what is it that we think, hiring this person, what will be the fundamental differences in our organization from year 1, 3, and 5, and what organizational activities are needed to be sustained, and which ones enhanced? And then just general, and which ones are to be initiated. And then finally, whatever your thoughts are about more subjective or informal measures for determining the success of this individual. So you can sit with this for a moment. Who would like to open up the discussion? Yes, Jean?
I'm going first because I have bronchitis and I'm going to leave right away in order not to infect you any further. I think the challenges are that there's been a tendency to centralize decision-making, and I think general administration is helpfully emphasizing that decisions ought to be made as close to the ground as possible, and is seeking to devolve power to campuses and units and departments and programs farther down. So I'd like to see a commitment to devolving power to the people who actually know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Related to that is that the new provost should have a systematic critique of corporatization. All universities are getting more corporate. Probably all candidates will be aware of that, but only a few of them will be in a position to push back and say, universities have things to offer that are different from corporations, and we need to be not taken in. And related to that is the importance of research. I get the impression that under the current regime, we're supposed to be like widgets and sort of equally produce research and student credit hours and administrative presence. But people have different strengths and they have different callings at different points in their careers. So if we're devolving power and we're not being corporate, then we might want to do something really countercultural and encourage research that doesn't necessarily turn immediately into dollars. I think that's part of our role as a university. So that's my piece. Thanks.
Thank you, Jean. Any follow-up on some of the points that Jean raised? Other points? Yes, come on, Gary. Feel better, Jean.
Yeah, following up briefly on what Jean was saying, I think An important aspect of that is that the new provost ought to have, prior to being hired, sufficient accomplishments in research that they did attain, in fact, the rank of professor before going into administration. That ties into the critique of creeping corporatization. If we have multiple provosts in a row that lack that distinction, there's a threat of incrementally wearing away any idea that the person who's the chief academic officer of the university should have that requirement.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think we need to reestablish that that's in fact a necessary prerequisite for the position. Such a person really understands what research is in a more complete way than a faculty member who had more limited experience.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question. So when you said as a prerequisite, are you thinking coming to the applicant pool already at full, or would be eligible, someone at the associate level potentially who could be eligible at full?
I don't think
And
they should be.
also-
I don't think we should be looking at them.
Okay, I just want to get clarification. Mm-hmm.
But saying that leaves it open to any field whatsoever. So, they need to have had a terminal degree, presumably, but it could be whatever,
Okay,
whether it's in business or art or law or whatever, or something in the liberal arts. That doesn't matter, so long as they've done that level of research. Yeah.
other comments? Yes.
I'm Rebecca Adams in gerontology. I have 2 points to make. One of them kind of follows up on the theme that's already developing. But I've been here long enough, my whole career, to have lived through many provosts and many chancellors. And I think there is a place for every kind of leadership in the lifetime of a university. Basically, I see the provosts we've had as either being strong at bureaucracy or strong at academic vision. It's a little odd, as the ex-associate provost of everything faculty didn't like very much for me to say this, but I think we need to move beyond a bureaucrat at this point. We had some things that needed to be fixed, and I think they've been fixed, and that we now have the luxury where we could really, under the right leadership, develop some academic vision for the university. We're in a much better position to do that now than we have been in the past, and I think we should take advantage of that. So that's one thing. But the other thing that's also related to me having been here for a long time is this is likely to be my last provost, and it's likely to be the last provost of a huge number of faculty, because we hired a bunch of people right after we hired me, and we're all going to leave eventually. And so whoever this provost is going to have to be able to do a lot of succession management, and they're going to have a huge opportunity to shape this university with new faculty lines. So we want to make sure that this is a person who has a sense of how to manage that transition that we'll be going through and end us up in a good place. I want to point out that after I left being associate provost, I went back to gerontology. And so I also want to speak on behalf of aging on this campus. I coordinate the Gerontology Research Outreach Workforce Development and Teaching Hub. And in that position, I've heard a lot about ageism on this campus and the fact that we have an aging faculty and an aging staff because people tend to be loyal to UNCG, so we're lucky enough to have kept people a long time. I would hope that this new provost, could be age-friendly and not say things like, let's cut our losses and move forward, and would be willing to hire or at least keep on some of the people who have provided leadership on this campus over a long period of time, and not to assume that the constraints they've operated under in the past were ones that they enjoyed operating under. Basically, I'm trying to say that I don't want an ageist provost. I don't want an ageist provost. We have some issues on campus. We need someone who can lead us out of that temptation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any other thoughts and follow-up to Rebecca about the upcoming demographic shift and retirements in the faculty as we age, and then the dual process of, I like that, succession planning. Any other thoughts on that? Others? Yes, Olaf?
Olaf Rapella from biology, and I am always a little frustrated with the generality of answers of candidates in these kind of interviews, and so I would like to see concrete and specific questions that force the candidates to be concrete and specific in their answers. And I don't have, the ultimate question that I think forces the candidates to do that. But I mean, maybe, the provost will face either a good situation where we have a budget growth, or the provost will face a situation where there's a constriction, and maybe we could put both scenarios in front of the provost and say, specifically, if you had to cut 10% from the budget, what would you do? If you had a 10% increase in the budget of UNCG, what would you do? To really know sort of some more specific opinions of the candidates.
One of the things that I'm hoping that will emerge from the various levels of scoping activities are some targeted areas that either, again, we need to initiate the things we need to be prepared for. So to the extent that you can be specific around those things in your survey, I think that would be really helpful in terms of helping the committee think about how to target around some core areas that seem to be bubbling up across the campus.
Hi, Andrea. It's Diane Welsh, and I'm the Hayes Distinguished Professor in Entrepreneurship in the Bryan School of Business, and then I'm Director of the Entrepreneurship Cross-Disciplinary Program. And I would like to see a candidate in the provost job that really understands the cross-disciplinary programs we have here on campus. So it's not just entrepreneurship that I represent, but also a very large sustainability program. So we have courses in 27 different departments, approximately 50 across campus. And I think I report directly to the dean, but then overall indirectly to the provost, because those programs are campus-wide. So I think that lots of times that's not addressed with candidates, or, do they have experience in this area? Have they been to a school where they've encouraged that kind of thing? What will they do to support the program, to provide some infrastructure? Because lots of times what happens is that we sort of get lost in the shuffle. So even when there's like major changes going on curriculum-wise, we don't get invited to the meetings. The department chairs do, but we don't. I think that with the new person on board, that's going to get changed a little bit, so that's great. But I think that, it's got to be considered, where does those kind of programs fit? Is there some possibilities for endowing those programs? how do the programs work with the centers? I think that that's a big, something that's just, you know, been overlooked. And I think this provost has tried to do a good job at recognizing that. But for instance, you know, look at in terms of an endowment. Usually, provosts don't have a big footprint in deciding what goes into the capital campaign. But the cross-disciplinary programs fall under the provost. They don't really fall under the schools. And they're in a school, but they're lots of times those are looked at as sort of outside the school or for the whole campus. And I know this personally because I asked this current provost about, you know, could we possibly see about getting in the capital campaign? And, you know, she said, well, that's really the deans to put in the proposal. So I think that's just one example. I think we have some really great cross-campus programs that we should be really proud of that are doing really well. But I think that that's something that sort of gets overlooked lots of times on the searches is, does the person have experience with that? And the current provost actually did, so that was very positive with a gender program she had down in Texas that went across campus. So, but I would like that issue addressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diane. Other thoughts? Comments? Tara.
Hi, Tara Green, Professor of African American and African Diaspora Studies, and Linda Carlisle, Excellence Professor of Women's and Gender Studies. I want to echo Gary's point. I actually put that in the survey of having a person who is a specialist in their disciplinary field, someone who is respected as a scholar. I think that the person that we can't compromise on that, especially moving forward, as Rebecca has stated. And secondly, I am going to say that we need a person with proven, not the potential, but a proven track record in diversity, inclusion, and equity. Who have they hired? Who have they mentored? What kind of programs have they implemented? It may even speak to the kind of research that they do or the organizations that they are a member of, and doing some follow-through so that that's not just the optics in terms of what's on their CV, or that they can speak to examples, but follow-up of getting some names and asking people about their relationships and what have they observed. So I would like to see somebody with a demonstrated record of equity, inclusion, diversity at all levels, from the student level up to the administrative level.
Thanks, Tara. Any follow-up on the issues and points that Tara raised? Gary?
Yeah, so I think it's, to further all these things, it would be extremely positive if the individual selected has got a track record, or at least shows a clear disposition and interest in really working cooperatively with shared governance and the faculty senate and all of that. Get somebody who's not only a strong administrative leader, but someone who can work well in the context of shared governance with the faculty, who is willing to listen and make the necessary compromises to advance the whole university community.
Thank you, Gary.
So
Yes.
I'm not saying that it's a necessary condition that the person have themselves served in a faculty senate governance role or anything like that. But of course, that would be a plus. The main thing, though, is that they display the necessary disposition and tendency to be able to work with all of us.
Thanks, Gary. Other comments? Yes.
I know you have to talk into the mic. This is just real short, but I think that the working with shared governance is also related to succession planning. I know most of the people in this room. I expected to see some young faculty. I know there are some here. Thanks, Jeremy. But if there isn't more engagement of the faculty in shared governance, we're going to have an issue that we've never had before. So this is part of succession planning too. It's not just what departments get lines and what academic programs are expanded or contracted. It's how to make a university work after the exodus of the long-term faculty and staff who will be gone. We've already seen it happen in a couple places on campus, and it isn't working real well right now. I'm talking about I'm not talking about the academic side, but I'm talking about managing the succession of important key people through the university in general. So it sounds like all this is related to me, but.
Jeremy, since your name came up, do you want to come up?
Yeah, since you called me out, I'll come up. Well, and I won't speak to that, but I will say that I think the interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary aspect of this, and I look at this search committee and I wonder the faculty input, where exactly it is. I mean, I know that it seems like there's a lot of administrators on the search committee, and so I just wanted to voice that. I think there's a need to have that interdisciplinary lens and somebody who comes in, and kind of reiterating what others have said, somebody who comes in who has the experience of having been a faculty member, and a faculty member who's not just pigeonholed into one kind of department, one discipline, but understands many different disciplines.
Okay, I was going to say, I'll follow up. I think this is definitely a lean and mean in terms of size. And so one of the things that why I think the scoping sessions and really doing a broad-based survey is important, is to elevate in lots of different pockets, but also as we go forward at different levels to think about how in multiple ways we can raise those perspectives up. But I will certainly forward all the concerns, and the committee and the chancellor and I will get a chance to review and reflect. Chancellor. Well, I think that with the provost stepping down, we had a very condensed calendar. If I could just go, oops, I'm out. Okay, how do I get back in? Yeah, if we can go back one more. Oh, how do I go back to the? One more.
I just have one more.
I was just going to say, really condensed calendar because the provost will be, stepping down at the end of June, I think it is, end of June. And so we're really compressed. We don't have a 8, 9, 12-month window. So I think that tells you something about the overall speed of the process.
I just want to follow up on what Rebecca said, because I think it's very true. What I'm seeing on campus, too, is that even at the school levels, the involvement by the younger faculty or the associate faculty, professors, assistant associate professors is really thinning out, and that surprises me. I haven't really seen that in my career. So there isn't a lot of engagement or interest in being engaged, and so I think there's got to be someone that's aware of that, and this might be a national trend too. I think it probably is. As you see that in clubs and organizations where they're not as much about joining and getting involved. But I think that does affect how we govern, and we need that input, and they're valued, and I think a provost could lead in that message to the assistants and associate professors, and also probably staff, and also it goes in there. Thank you.
I wonder if sorry, Lori, is there anyone else out there that's at the assistant level or the associate level that would like to? Yes. I think that's while he's getting there, just to pick up on your point, we really seek to protect our assistant faculty, and often we protect them for the very thing that would lead to these other levels of engagement. So that's something I think we all need to do some thinking about. Yes.
Hello, Andrea. Thank you for chairing the committee. That's going to be a lot of work for you this year. But I'm an associate professor in chemistry and biochemistry. First, to speak as to the lack of engagement with the younger faculty, I suspect it's because they're being asked to do too much with too little. And that gets to the point that I was going to come up here with. I've been here with 3 provosts, including Provost Dunn. I don't know much about her, but one thing that I've noticed in all these years that I've been here is that there's been a tremendous drive from above to grow new programs, new initiatives, et cetera, et cetera. And I would say, frankly, that is growing to the extent to where we can't afford it. And now we're being told that there's going to be an enrollment crash. Things are not looking good. The budget has not been good for a while anyway. So I would say a provost or anybody at that level needs to knock it off with the growing. What they need to do is shore up all of our strengths here at UNCG, take care of what we have, not try to be a Chapel Hill or a Duke, try to be a UNCG. Because if enrollment's going to crash, students want to go someplace that's special, that's good for them. And so if we try to be something that we're not, we're just going to look like fakes, basically. And why would students want to go? That's my point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Lori. I'll get you next. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, we're both Lori.
Oh.
I'm Lori Allen from nutrition. I'm an assistant professor, and I'm just speaking to the fact of maybe like my point of view of I'm on the faculty senate, but I think it is a little intimidating for assistant professors to come on. I know that because there are so many faculty that have been here forever, sometimes you sort of feel like it's hard to sort of break in. Like I'll go to meetings and everybody knows everybody, and it's kind of like I'll be like, saying my name again and again and again, and it's sort of like, I don't know who she is. So, and I think even on to join the Senate, I mean, I know like in my school, I mean, they were happy that I joined because we needed somebody, but even kind of my department, people were like, well, you want to do that? Like, you want to, like, that's sort of like for the old, that's for the faculty that just, the older faculty that just do it because that's what you're expected to do. And I was like, no, I want to learn. I've learned so much about the university because I stay in my little hole of nutrition. And I know all about that, and I know about the program I run, but I didn't know much about the university. So I think, I don't know, it would be helpful to have some sort of campaign or something to try and think about, I've thought about trying to write an article or something like, this is what you can get out of it. Like, it really is an educational experience for those of us that are, I've been at UNCG for a long time, but I was adjunct, so it's kind of on the outside, and then it was hard to sort of break in and get, integrated into maybe all of this. That's my point of view.
All right, thanks, Lori. That's a job for you, Anthony. Another job for you to work on that. Then we'll have the senior Lori.
Segue wait for the old Lori to get up. And I say that for two reasons, and following what Rebecca said and then my colleague from chemistry, is that I think we, in knowing about the change in enrollment demographics, and just coming back from the Gerontological Society meeting, where I heard a lot about age-friendly universities, thinking differently about who will be our students and maybe needing to even adjust the program. So even thinking about someone who maybe is at one of those universities.
Thanks, Lori. Are there any students, graduate or undergraduate students that are here? Any of our non-tenure track faculty that are here that would like to share their thoughts? Anyone? Okay, back open to the floor. I'm looking, but I'm not calling names, but, you know, I will do that. That's what I tell my students. Other thoughts? Thanks.
Oh, you're good at pressuring. I'm Nancy Heffert from the School of Nursing, and I think the comment about the enrollment, you know, pressures to increase enrollment, to me tie with what I've only actually been here, this is my 4th year, what I perceive to be very driven by the metrics and expectations of the system, the UNC system, and obviously we have to live with those because they are there. But I think I would like to see a provost who can reframe them not as mandates, but as here's something we can meet as we establish our own vision clearly and move forward with that vision, because I think there's different ways to frame those mandates, and I don't feel like in my short time here that they've been framed that way. And there was one other thing, but I'll remember it because my aging brain is...
Well, Nancy, let me ask you that. So you see that both as an issue of vision and communication? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, mostly vision. And here's the other thing that I wanted to mention a little bit. We have this initiative called the Millennium Campus, which I haven't seen as a faculty member much action on that. I haven't seen much transparency and communication about that. There's the communication piece. And I would hope that in interviewing candidates for this position, that be a point of discussion, because it seems like it's a wonderful opportunity for the university. And it's been on the books for, what, 2.5, 3 years, and yet, so I would hope that we would be able to hire somebody who can actually move that agenda forward. And I know part of it's about fundraising, but, you know, you get the right ideas, you are able to get the money in. And so I think we're missing something there that a new provost may be able to play a really important role in. And so I would like to see that be part of the discussion with potential candidates.
Am I timed right up? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see a question. Here is someone from chat, from Mike. I'd like to make sure that a provost knows the value, oh, thanks, Mike, of NTT faculty to the university, especially as budgets are constrained. I would hope that we wouldn't be viewed as disposable. Thank you, Mike, for that. Anyone else who's also NTT faculty who may be here that would like to follow up on Mike's point? Thanks, Chanel.
If I start to cough, please forgive me. Not only not disposable for NTT faculty, but the diversity in the roles of NTT faculty is important, that there are those like me who do research, and we need funding just like other people do. It makes it hard, even more of a struggle when you're teaching a heavier load, plus you've got research. And then you look for something to apply for and it says only tenure track people can apply. And so we have these diversity of roles that I'm not sure that everybody understands. And we have rules that seem to only be because that's the rule that I think we should look at. And I hope our provost has experience at doing that.
Thanks, Chanel. Anyone else to follow up on that point? Okay, other thoughts, comments? What about some of our staff members in the back? Anyone? We have a couple more minutes left. Yeah, Jeremy, thank you.
I may just come back up, and I realize I didn't introduce myself. I'm in Peace and Conflict Studies. My name is Jeremy Rinker, and I am assistant professor. And as somebody new to the Senate this term, I think it's interesting, and I'm just kind of following up on trying to figure out how to get more younger faculty or junior faculty involved. I've found it kind of difficult, even as a senator, to figure out how's this operate, right? And so maybe there's a way we can do some workshops or something that gets folks who are junior faculty to come out, offer them food or something like that, in order to get them to kind of understand the workings of the Senate a little bit more. And just to go back to the task at hand in terms of the provost, I think having this prospective provost or the person who comes in understand the need, as Rebecca was saying and others have said, to really engage those younger faculty in a way and use the energy of that younger faculty. Because I would agree, I think we're pulled in a lot of different directions, and trying to figure out how to harness that for the university would be really helpful. Somebody who knows how to do that, which is not an easy task.
I know we don't have very much time left on the agenda, but I just want to get some of your thoughts about our imagined self. So there's a question about, after we hire this person, what we would look like a year from now or 3 years from now or 5 years from now. Let's push it out to 3 to 5. Do you have any sense of, where is that destination point? What would it look like? What would UNCG look like if we brought this person in who can do the things that you were talking about? Can you give me some other sort of thoughts about that? Particularly in terms of what would you see as some of the ways that we would be fundamentally different? I know, no essay questions after 4. Okay, so a more diverse faculty? A diverse, but let's not put more on it. A diverse faculty.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I would like to see more flexibility as far as things like workload, because what I see right now is some rigidity. This is the way we do it. And it may be partly because the position I'm in is a little bit unique in that I'm a clinical faculty in the School of Nursing in our Doctor of Nursing program. And in order to be in that position, we are required to also work as a clinician. So I have to work 1 day a week as a clinician, and yet I still have to carry a full workload, which means I work about 120% of a full job. But there's not really any flexibility in, like, how do we manage that, and I've talked to our dean, but I think it's above her. I think and it may even be above UNCG. It may be more of a statewide thing. But I would like to see the ability to have some flexibility and to think outside the box about how can we make this work so that we don't bleed our faculty, because a lot of people get really burned out and they leave.
And that's Judith Adams from nursing. And clearly I'm one of those old people who knows everybody's name, so been here a long time. Other points about how it will be fundamentally different? Olaf?
Yeah, I want to echo that. I think flexibility is going to be a key, and I mean, other institutions can do it. I'm very concerned about maintaining newly recruited faculty in our department and others that are very successful. And if we don't adjust a little bit to the successes that these people have, then we won't be able to keep them. And I think so flexibilities, and I mean, I think the specifics are hard to forecast, but I think flexibility is going to be a key for the success of UNCG in the future.
Anna Tan, School of Education. I want to add to the points that have been raised. I think not only just a diverse faculty, but a diverse faculty that is supported through tenure and promotion. We've had diverse faculty, people of color, but they just go through the revolving door. So I think that is an issue. Another point I want to bring up is that while we laud ourselves as a minority-serving institution, as we should, given the numbers, overwhelmingly our students of color see UNCG as a PWI, as a predominantly white institution, and they've had to perform themselves as students of color negotiating a PWI. So I think that is a big problem, is a white elephant. People don't talk about it. I would love for the new provost to be able to engage with such. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Evan. Other thoughts? I think we folded in a lot of the kind of subjective, maybe informal measures for success. I don't know if there's anything, you had any thoughts specifically about that, but are there other things that you really would like to bring forward to the search committee, to our partners, Isaacson and Miller, particularly at this stage of the process? I usually wait my students out a long time on a pause. Okay, I just want to make sure I don't see any other hands that would like to go up. And I don't know if there are other administrators or heads or other people who would also like to share some of their thoughts. No? Well, thank you very much. I think this is a really productive first conversation. And again, as I said, we'll be sharing the minutes with the search committee and also the search firm. And I hope that we will continue to have these conversations in our local places as this process starts to unfold over the spring semester. I'm sure we'll get other levels of engagement. So go out and seed out to the larger university as a part of those conversations. And let me just say that this is our search committee. Feel free to reach out to me, any of those members reach out to them as well in formal and informal ways. I know I've already started to keep a little notebook for the people I run into in the streets who tell me things that they want me to know about. So I said I'm keeping a running log. So all the different ways that we can communicate to each other, I think we should see the search committee as an open place for that, and also directly to the search committee as well. Well, thanks guys for coming out. I know this is a tough time of year, and again, first of many conversations. Thank you.
I just wanted to also follow up as far as faculty representation. So one of the things that I promise, and certainly the former chair and associate chair of the Senate is our search committee chair as well, is I plan on having a dossier for the faculty senate, right? So I'm a big believer in terms of sampling. So you have my commitment that especially for the Senate, I'm going to put together a package for the search committee once we get to that point. So everything from quantitative and qualitative data, and in fact at the Board of Governors level, I've been pushing the idea of having system-wide faculty and staff polls on issues, right? And so I think making some headway there because, you know, obviously given technology, we're able to provide direct input, both quantitative and qualitatively, to the leaders that are making the decisions about our future. So thanks, Andrea. So the next gentleman is someone that we both remarked we hadn't met each other all these years that we've been on campus, and then the last couple of weeks we've seen each other exhaustively everywhere. This is Andrew Cagle. So Andrew is going to provide an update on the budget. Don't kill the messenger. He's just here to provide information. Andrew, do you need a glass of water? We good to that? Okay, right. And by the way, that was a joke. The joke was we were at the Board of Governors having lunch together, and he started choking, and so I brought him a glass of water, and then he was drinking his water. Then I started to choke, and he said, maybe I should get you one as well. Yeah. All right.
Thank you. Anthony's right. I've been here at UNCG about 3.5 years now. I'm the legislative liaison for the university, so I spend a lot of my time in Raleigh. And got to meet Anthony a few months ago. It was the first time I met him, and now we just can't seem to get rid of each other. Because I had a meeting with him earlier about something else, and it's been fun working with you, and I appreciate this opportunity. I want to give a legislative update of where the budget stands. Normally, in a biennium, the North Carolina General Assembly would have a budget by now. Most of y'all understand that. However, because the way the structure of the General Assembly is made up now, with new members that have come in, the GOP has lost their supermajority. Now the Democrats have a role now on what they say can and can't be passed. That has turned into a budget impasse. Nothing can be worked out. So I'm going to spare a lot of details and just kind of get to it. This year's budget that the Republicans have written is probably one of the best budgets for the UNC system in probably a decade or more. There's over $630 million worth of capital projects spread across not just the UNC system, but as the state as a whole. And we have a significant portion of that coming here to our university. However, since the budget was vetoed and the Democrats and the Republicans do not have a veto override power, the budget just sat because the governor wanted Medicaid expansion. So all those good things that were going to come to UNCG and the UNC system and state employees as raises are literally sitting still. So now we wait. Excuse me, at the time, we're just going to wait and try to figure out what's going to happen. So in October, it got a little more interesting. Republicans introduced two different bills. They started doing mini budgets, excuse me. If you keep up with the news, you'll hear about the legislature wanted to do mini budgets for certain parts of the budget so they can get things moving. The UNC system was the last mini budget that they brought up, which actually included $6 million for faculty retention fund for the UNC system, and 2% raises for UNC system employees for this year and 2% next year, so 4% over 2 years. Unfortunately, the governor vetoed that as well. And he's only vetoing it not because he doesn't want faculty retention funding or raises for us. It's politics. He says it's not enough money, and he wants Medicaid expansion. So you'll see continually veto overrides. So again, we wait. However, what's interesting is November 15th, the governor finally sent a compromise on a mini budget for system raises, UNC system raises. And in here, he is asked to have a mini budget. This includes all education. I'm going to read it out loud. 8.5 for teachers. This is over a 2-year period. 8.5 salary increases for teachers, 5% for non-certified school personnel, 4% for community college, and 5% for university employees subject to the Human Resources Act. So SHRA could possibly get a 5 out of this compromise. EHRA, not sure yet. But I'm sure my thinking is right now it's 2.5% for those who are EHRA. This is not done, but this letter from the governor to the General Assembly admits that raises need to happen and make it separate from the budget. So this is a good move that shows that the governor's willing to work with it, and only the numbers for raises keep getting higher and higher each time someone comes back renegotiating. So normally we would be done, right? I'd be back on campus doing other things, working with you and other faculty members and staffers as well, but this is drawn out so long. I don't think in the history of the state, at least in the last 50 or 60 years, has there never been a budget gone this long. To show, all right, so I'm backing up a little bit because I'm trying to remember exactly where the state budget sits. The House did override the governor's veto, but now it sits with the Senate. And so the Senate has to be the group that overrides the veto, which would bring in our raises, things that are for UNCG and the system as a whole. So the makeup of the North Carolina State Senate is, of 50 members, there are 29 Republicans and 21 Democrats. You need a three-fifths majority to override the veto. So basically you need one Democrat to vote with the Republicans or a Democrat to take a walk. Unfortunately, none of them are willing to do that because the governor has basically said, you're going to stick with me, so none of the Democrats are going to flip over. Now, the next chance for an override would be in January 14th. It's when the General Assembly is coming back in on January 14th to give this another shot to hopefully do a veto override along with several other bills. If they don't have it done in January, we will go without a budget, and then they'll start all over again in May. So thankfully, the Republicans have already said that's it. Like, if they can't get it done in January, they're not going to do it. So we start this whole process over again, start the whole process over again. And basically what I've done the last 12 months is gone. We start all over. Personally, I don't see that happening. There's too much that's good on both sides, and especially with the letter coming from the governor on Friday, I see myself and some others see some wavering because they know there's a lot of good projects that need to get moving. There are a lot of, especially salaries for folks who have not had them in a long time, along with capital projects, because if you get capital projects like ours that's within the budget, provides jobs to the local economies. So it's getting a bit old, to be honest, and a lot of people are getting tired with each other. So I hope that helps understand where we are a little bit, that we're still waiting, and we're basically down to one person making a flip of a vote, and if that happens, it's in January. And if not, we lost a year. But thankfully, a few years ago, a continuing resolution statute was put in place, which is why we don't act like the federal government. We continue to operate on last year's numbers, so that's why the power's still on, our paychecks still come in, but just no new projects. We just all operate off of numbers. And those who control budgets here probably understand that your numbers have not changed. You can't hire anyone. You're kind of stuck where you're at until the General Assembly gives passes the budget. So, I have any questions? If anyone has any, I'd be more than happy to answer any. Sure.
So the Medicaid expansion piece, that's a binary choice. I mean, it's either yes or no on that, or is there any kind of room for compromise, like a different level of Medicaid expansion?
That is an area I'm not an expert in, but the governor basically said yes, basically said, I want Medicaid expansion.
Republicans don't.
Republicans have said no.
And that's where it stands. There's no room really in there for any kind of.
And that's where these mini budgets came out, because they're trying to circumnavigate the governor's veto. And it worked in some areas, but finally, the governor put his foot down and said no more. But this is where that letter I'll keep referring to on Friday shows that he's wavering a little bit again. It's tough to say. 1 week is one thing, because there were several times where we thought we would have a budget. And, that's a big deal for any state agency, prisons, school systems, Health and Human Services, us. We're just so close, and then one person just backed out because the governor wants the expansion. So it's holding a lot of things up.
If somebody's talking, can you go to the microphone?
I'll go ahead and answer your question to your statement. One, I'm not in that area. I can't answer that. And Republicans have said.
I think we have to have more of a moderate view of of what, and not blaming everything on the governor. So what I want to say is with the number of people that are very low income in the state that do not have medical coverage at all, that what I hear the governor trying to say is we need to consider this. And many states around the country have. And so maybe there's more of a moderate line both parties need to take in this, in terms of the Republicans saying maybe this is not something we shouldn't be considering. So I think we have to look beyond just our walls and what's good for the whole state of North Carolina. And I'm not from here originally, but what's amazed me is the number of people that really are low income, and in some states, in some counties, have 34% unemployment and don't have medical care. And I think that we have to, I think it can't be just one side's right and one side's wrong. So I think we have to moderate our conversation a little bit in what's being said. Thank you.
Sure. I will add, because I don't want to get too far off subject, because there are several rural Republicans that have said that they want this to happen, because they understand that it needs to happen in those areas. Unfortunately, those ones that have come out and said that are not the ones that are in power. Right. So, but those issues like that have held up the rest of the state. But I encourage you to write or call your local legislator and let them know how you feel. And by the way, if there's no more other questions, I'm simple to reach. I can give anyone my card. I'll be more than happy to help in any way I can, answer phone calls, or answer your calls, answer your emails. Anthony knows that just by chance, because we met in a random meeting, and now we've had more structured meetings since then. But I'm always happy to help. All right. Thank you.
So the good news is that our agenda is quickly winding down, but Andrea wanted to say a little bit more, so we can have as much time as you need as far as this discussion. So.
I wanted to, there you are, Jeremy. I wanted to follow up on Jeremy's comment about the search committee and faculty representation. I was doing two things, encoding what you were saying and also thinking about multiple levels of process to think about inclusion. So my mind sort of got off on that. But what I wanted to say with respect to our faculty representation, that we are actually a model in the state in terms of other campuses. Many campuses for executive level position either don't have representation or only have representation of the faculty senate. So we do have a couple of full professors, associate professors, and also people who bridge what I would call them faculty administrative positions, but still hold strong faculty positions as well as department heads. So we're close to maybe about a third, 40%, who have some type of faculty role. But that doesn't mean that your point isn't well taken, which is why I was focusing on the point that was being made. But since everyone may not be able to see because they're listed in alphabetical order, I did want to say that we are being thoughtful about that. Certainly this is something that Anthony and I both care deeply about, and that includes thinking about creatively, as I said before, how can we be as inclusive as possible and garner all those perspectives. So I just wanted to follow up. So you can disregard my email I sent you.
All right, thanks, Andrea. So I see our chair of online learning is here. So what we're going to do now is talk about the online instructor training policy a little bit more. It is in effect. So for those of you that it impacts, we have been talking a lot about helping facilitate what that means, and in particular as it comes to meeting the requirements of that policy. So I appreciate, let me get you here. Appreciate Mary Chase for joining us, and hand it over to you.
Thank you, Anthony. Hello, good afternoon. I won't take up much of your time. I am the chair of the Online Learning Committee. And as you know, last year we were charged with creating some policies to train online instructors. This was a need, that was a university need, but also as a response to, we needed to respond to SACS COC. So in our group, we created these guidelines and we submitted them to the Office of the Provost, and then they became policy, and many questions have arisen ever since that moment. And we have created a group, and we do have we created a group to answer these questions if we could answer them, because there's a lot of unknown as to when it's implemented, what kind of training we need to do. So we do have already a document, and I believe it's somehow uploaded in it's in the Faculty Senate website, so you can access it there. We're constantly tweaking it. And if you have any further questions, please let us know. Sometimes we don't have the answers, but we can find the entities that may answer them. So we are in close contact with everybody. And this online committee is everything online at the university. So we have representatives of all the groups. So just to let you know that we're there, that please contact me if you have any questions regarding the implementation of the policies, and we'll be working on it. That's about it. Thank you.
And so, as an online instructor, and I see our chair is here as well, so obviously we're very focused in on what this policy means. We do know that how we demonstrate meeting the requirements, especially through Activity Insight, is still going to be quite an adventure. And Mariche and her committee has created FAQs, so I'll make sure I release those FAQs shortly. So, all right. And then finally, and it's discussion or not. I know it's been a long meeting. To vote or not to vote is the question. So one of the things I want us to entertain is the idea of allowing at our faculty meetings and also our general faculty meetings the ability to attend online, which we have at least three faculty that are online with us now. And the question is, should they be allowed to vote electronically, right? And so I'm biased, as almost all of my instruction now is online, and our students are all across the world. And you certainly can see Patricia and Judith there. So one of the questions that we want to ask is, what is the sense from the faculty on whether that is allowable? And of course, there's a lot of pros and cons with being able to attend virtually. As many of you may know or remember, our first general faculty meeting, I was at a hotel in Tennessee, and it's because I had a presentation a couple hours before and a presentation the next morning, and so but that allowed me to still at least fulfill my duties and also be part of a general faculty meeting from afar, right? And so, and several senators, as also, you know, they have a sick child, and anyway, bottom line is there are some legitimate reasons for being virtual. So what are the thoughts of the attendees? To vote or not to vote is the question. Any thoughts, yay or nay? And I'll say that there has been some discussion with the government committee about maybe not, but yes, Jeremy, did you want to? Oh yes, please go ahead, Judith.
Well, I would just say that we are moving into more of an online community. I think face-to-face is important, but there are also times when it's appropriate to be here online, and I think that we should be able to vote. So that's my opinion.
Jeremy, yeah, go ahead. Oh, 1 second, he's turning it on. There we go. Yeah.
I think we should be able to vote, online, but I wonder if there's some way we can limit the amount of times that can be done, because I think there's a need for face-to-face interaction.
Sure, that's a good point, yeah. Definitely have some policy around that, guidelines. Nancy, did you have a comment when you were, Lori? So you feel that, that digital voting would be, within the appropriate guidelines? Sure. Well, we have our parliamentarian here. What are your thoughts, Madam Parliamentarian? And maybe go to the mic there to. And she is on the government committee, so I know they've already discussed it. So.
Robert says that in order to have an assembly, you need to be able to hear and easily respond to questions, and others need to be able to hear you. The problems with most electronic ways of voting is that they don't always allow that. And so there could be a situation where someone enacting their rights because of technology not working, they could say, hey, you took away my rights, I'm a minority, this wasn't fair, and make a vote illegitimate because of the technology.
Okay.
So at the National Association of Parliamentarians, there was this conversation. And the gist of it, the ending part of it is that you need to ensure that the technology is of high quality. And they did a map of that, and WebEx was at the top of that because it is an enterprise kind of technology that is easily supported. So as long as people can respond easily to each other, and you put that in your bylaws, it's fine.
Great.
According to Roberts.
Well, with Roberts on our side, then that sounds excellent. All right. Any other comments? Yes. Okay. So the real challenge is if I can read this without my reading glasses. As a member of the Faculty Senate who's currently attending the meeting virtually, I don't see why we shouldn't be allowed to vote. I can hear and respond. I can do it with my face and voice right now, too. Yeah. No, I concur with that. So, is anyone opposed to the idea of being able to vote electronically? Now, there are certainly some cons if we are not appropriately prepared and do not have appropriate guidelines. But are there any cons? Yeah, go ahead, Lori. Would you mind? He'll bring you the microphone.
So the question is, do you mean at the time of the vote, not prior to like submitting their vote on a resolution ahead of time?
Right.
So,
right. Real
so
time.
when this is written up, it would be real-time
Real time.
voting.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Like an active participant. I think being able to hear and at the very least hear and a voice. I think we can work on those guidelines. And I'm sorry, Chanel, you'll be seeing those guidelines. So, okay. Any other thoughts, comments? Well, again, I want to thank the provost also for this. So again, as I've told her many times, I don't think people realize how much she does and how much she supports innovation. So she's provided the funding to allow for the technology that you see, including the support that we have. And so hopefully you can see progress in terms of how we're holding these meetings, how we're communicating, and empowering how we connect with one another. So I just want to give Dana a lot of credit to listening to kind of what I wanted to try to accomplish and providing the resources to make it happen. So, so Dana, if you do end up listening to this, thank you very much for supporting our continued innovation. So, all right. Does anybody have any other comments or questions? All right. With that being said, this will be the last meeting of the Faculty Senate until February. So have a wonderful holiday season, Thanksgiving. I hope your semester ends up well. And I really want to thank all of you one, for being here, but also all the things that we've accomplished as a faculty. There are a lot of wonderful things happening, and largely because of you. So thank you very much.
Fight for the one big gangzilla alongside Skrillex. Them for you.